Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Macomb at Western Illinois University in front of Sherman Hall. Glad to report that the dry spell is over. We are here to look at some public art on the campus of WIU today. The reason we choose today is because we have 6 very busy people who are lined up to show us some of this art. We'd never get them together again. So we're going to brave our way through the rain here today. And Gil, thank you for arranging all this today. Gil, you worked on this campus for years.
Oh, it's a pleasure to do this,
And like
Mark.
many people, walk around the campus,
Right.
notice the public art, and thought to yourself, you know, somebody ought to do a little research and let people know how all this stuff got here and what it's about.
Well, it was a puzzle to me. This summer I was biking from the rec center across campus and I stopped at one of them that I like a lot. And I wonder what that's called and who did it. And there wasn't any label on it. And so I walked and toured around the rest of the week. We have about 21 pieces of public art, indoors and outside. And only 5 of them had a label on them. Whoa, you know, I got to know more about this. Who created it, what they call it, and when was it installed? And so I developed this little 2-Saturday tour under our adult learning class, Learning is Forever Life. And I took a dozen people around for 2 weeks, and we saw all the art, and I had then dug up who did it, why they did it, what it was to be about, and when it was installed. And it was so much fun for me. And one of my participants wrote to you an email and said, Mark, this is a story. So that's how this developed. Then.
Well, it's terrific. And what you've done for us today is you've arranged to get people who work on the campus here and know this art to meet us here in front of some of these to explain them to us.
You're actually going to meet 3 artists. 3 of these people have created and installed the things, and a couple others that are very knowledgeable about art because they're in the art department.
Well, terrific. And thank you for doing that for us. We're going to start right in front of Sherman Hall. Probably the oldest piece we're going to see today is there, and the artist is here as well.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir.
Exactly.
Bill Sanders, you used to be on the art faculty here at Western. And there was an interesting period of time, and you were here for most of it, when A.L. Knobloch was the president of the university.
Exactly.
And there was an immense boom in building, wasn't there?
That was the years when Western just doubled or tripled in size. It exploded. My wife and Knobloch both came in '58.
Oh, is that right? And then so the folks on campus wanted to do something to commemorate his time here and all that had happened.
Exactly.
So they asked you to come up with a statue.
Well, this was a physical plant, and this was their job, keeping the buildings up and running and clean. And so he was their godsend. He built the whole campus for them.
Yeah. So right outside Sherman Hall is this. Well, it's an iconic sort of a pedestal with your creation on top.
They wanted the graduation hat on the top, and so they couldn't figure out how to do it. And I was a jewelry teacher at the time, and so I just said, why don't we use a mixing bowl? So the mixing bowl has a little tilt to it, an angle, and looks very convincing, but it's a mixing bowl.
Yeah. But it's a mortar board on top.
Exactly.
With the little strip, you know, that you hang down when you graduate.
Help support it.
Yeah. And what's the strip made out of?
The strip's steel, and the whole top plate is steel too.
And the mixing bowl itself, you say, is filled aluminum. It's filled with cement.
I beg your pardon. Stainless steel. It's a stainless steel mixing bowl.
Yeah. Filled with cement.
Exactly.
So it's not going anywhere.
No, it's very solid.
Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
Charles, right? There's a really fascinating piece in front of the Theater Arts Building.
Yes.
And those who know sculpture probably have heard of Preston Jackson, who's a native Illinoisan.
Yes.
He was on staff here when he created this.
Yes.
And it is an intriguing piece, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's made of silica bronze, and it was cast while he was on staff. I think Preston talked about it as being a metaphor of dwelling places, which is where we form our social behaviors. And it's sort of made in opposites. There's a male on one side, female on the other side. There's a jail on the other side, or more comfortable room on the other. There's architectural elements and symbolic parts to it as you walk around.
You were saying on this side, sort of, it symbolizes freedom. Well, that's the mother's side.
There's a mother's side, a female on one side, and then on the opposite side, there's a sort of an elderly male side. And then there's architectural elements that look like jails on one side, and then there's more of what looks like a more comfortable room on the opposite side. But
and he calls it my father's house.
Yes.
I'm not
I
sure.
think he as I've read about it, he talks about that as being a place where we develop our social behaviors. So I guess in your father's house, there's opposites that help to create that: mother, father. I don't know, the architectural element of the jail versus the comfortable room. He also actually has this piece dedicated to Nelson Mandela and the South African struggle. So I think there's some reference to the opposites of that culture, the South Africans, and what they had to struggle to go through.
And at the time, I think it was 1991 when he was on staff and when he created this.
When it was
that
dedicated.
would have been a very hot issue then,
Yes.
wouldn't it?
Yes.
And you're the chairman of the art department,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is something you might want to refer your students to.
Oh, we do. Yes, we do. And thanks to Gil Bellis, we've actually developed a tour where we're developing it so we can actually get these pieces refurbished and then have a sculpture tour throughout campus.
Yeah. Well, this is terrific.
Yeah. It's very nice. And Preston works and has studios in Peoria, Illinois right now, and he's done some really fantastic pieces, some public commissions.
Well, Charles, you know Richard Hunt.
Yes.
He was the sculptor that made this piece, and this is attached to part of the Knobloch building, and we heard that name early in the program. He was the president of the university that got all these buildings built.
Yes.
This was affixed to this building, and tell us a little bit about Richard Hunt. You say he's very famous.
Well, Richard Hunt's very famous. He's from the south side of Chicago. His mother grew up in Galesburg, Illinois, and she was an artist herself. And so Richard became an artist very early on. He studied at the Art Institute in Chicago back in the 60s, in the 50s when he studied. But in the 60s, he was one of the first African American artists to get to be in one of the major museums in New York. And so his fame grew from there. Richard is internationally renowned. His work's all over the world. He has hundreds of pieces in the state of Illinois and in Milwaukee and other places throughout the country. Most of his pieces are huge, much larger than this. They're like huge, gigantic, monumental type sculptures, mostly stainless steel. There's some pieces that I've seen at the Museum of Modern Art and pieces in Los Angeles that are made out of bronze, huge bronze pieces, and Corten steel. So it's a wonderful piece. It's been here since 1997.
A lot of the people that see this know it as the Dove or the Doves, but that's not it. It's called Ascension.
It's called the Ascension, and it's called the Ascension. If you look at it, you can see as we walk around. You can see, as with most abstract art, you can see what you want, but as you look at it, you can see obviously there's a figurative form with two arms reaching up. As you look at it here. But yes, you could see almost anything in most abstract sculpture, but the artist's intent was this for this to be called the Ascension, and for you to see a figure in it.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it is. It's made out of stainless steel, which will always be that type. It won't rust. It's there's some sort of patinaed burnt marks on the top that the artist intended to be that way. So
and he came down and checked it out and
came
said,
out.
Yep, it's still
and
there, just the way I intended it. Huh?
Yes, and it was actually after 20 years he'd come down to do a program that we taped on campus of him, and he came out to see the piece for the first time in 20 years and said it was exactly as he intended.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George Potter, in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the university, you were commissioned, you were on the faculty then, to build Commemoration 75, which you
Right.
did. And what's really cool about this is you finally got a plaque. So now people finally know who did this. Just recently you
Right.
got your plaque
Yeah.
on there, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's been well, it'd be close to 40 years because we began really in 1974, and it was kind of in conjunction with the Diamond Jubilee, and I was fortunate enough to get a loan or a gift of the steel from U.S. Steel Corporation out of Chicago. And that was facilitated a large part by Ann Mullen, who was a teacher here in Painting, whose father was an executive with U.S. Steel.
Oh, that helps.
So that
Yeah.
helped out a lot.
Yeah.
At any rate, they called me up. I was surprised and shocked that they even accepted it, but they gave us the steel, and I think there was something around 6,000 pounds of steel.
Wow.
Come in on a a truck rolls up, it says U.S. Steel, Chicago, Illinois, and it had all of this steel on it. And so the physical plant, they unloaded it, and we worked from a little idea that I'd worked out, a small maquette that stood about 20, 21 inches high. And off of that little maquette, as best I remember, we took the measurements. Only, I think I'd built that maquette to 1 inch equals 1 foot in terms of scale. And so that's how we worked that. So it stands something like 21, 22 feet high. And that's how we determined the angles and so forth, which, looking at it now, I'm surprised that it worked out that well, but it did.
Well, it appears to have 3 legs. Are you working in triples here?
Yes, that's kind
Can
of
we
what I
walk
was
around a little
saying.
bit?
Yeah, sure. 75 is 3 25s. Well, you'll see threes all the way through this. 3, 3, 3.
Okay,
And
all
3
right.
legs that it stands on. So yeah, that was kind of the thinking on that. That, and I wanted a piece that looked like it had lift to it, rather than hugging the ground. That's
Yeah.
why the space underneath of it was kind of important to my feeling on
Yeah.
it.
It finishes in a beautiful color. Is it always this brownish, this sort of
That's
sienna
right.
color?
It's kind of
It
a
is.
reddish brown.
Yeah.
And against a blue sky, it's pretty striking, really.
And the steel was supposed to turn that color. That was what it was supposed to. And,
That's right.
and
Sure.
it'll stay that color
It'll
now.
stay that color.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is close to 40 years this has been up. So I'm looking at it, and it looks pretty good. It's,
It does look pretty good.
So maybe another 40 years it'll still be here. We hope.
I think it
anyway,
will be.
but
I think it will. I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't think so.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, you bet.
Duke Arsler, you teach sculpture here
Yep.
at WIU, and so you have more than a passing interest in some of this public art that's out here.
Absolutely.
This is right on the grounds, right outside the art building.
Yep.
And it's been here for a long time. I imagine a lot of students walk right by this, have no idea what they're looking at.
I would say that that's probably true. We try to, introduce the students to as much public art as we can, or at least I do. It's definitely what I'm interested in, what I participate in as a professional artist.
Yeah.
But it's been a nice piece. A lot of students comment about it. As a matter of fact, some of my lecture classes, we come out here and talk about the public pieces here.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah. So what is this piece? And who was, I think, Michael Dunbar? Is that the creator?
It's made by Michael Dunbar, who's a professional public artist. He's made a lot of large scale pieces. It's made from core tin steel, which is similar to some of the other pieces here on campus. It was made in 1978. It was a very popular material to use at that time, and still is. Many prominent public artists use core tin because of the fact that it lasts so long. I imagine it's been here since '78. I imagine it'll probably be here for another quite a few years.
We just saw one, and it turns this a really cool color when it gets aged.
The material, and this is something that we work with our students, is like introducing students to material here that can have archival qualities that can last a long time, as well as aesthetic properties that are really fantastic. Core tin is like a high carbon type of steel, so it rusts to a specific point and then seals itself and won't no longer rust anymore.
Yeah.
They use it a lot in train bridges in construction that way because has such longevity.
Yeah.
And it's that rich chocolatey brown's pretty nice as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. But he's obviously, I mean, he's a good fabricator. This piece has some really nice precarious qualities to it, and there's a lot of sculptors that, you know, similar in age and that were making sculptures like this of a similar aesthetic quality. You know, this real kind of play on balance and movement was very popular in the 70s as well as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's when it's outdoor in a public place too, you find yourself walking around it, through it. Kids might even want to play on it.
Right. Well, you could, I'm sure. One thing that's really nice about this piece too is like it has some really great negative space and some positive space, and it changes the way, you know, as you move around it does change quite a bit. It has an interior to it, you know, and the sculpture completely changes from the interior to the exterior. And then we also get this, you know, the title of the sculpture is Speed Wrench, and we get this kind of interesting idea of how these connections are made, you know, wrench and tools to create things and how we join things together. We have this really like cascading forms, you know, together.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful piece. We enjoy it very much.
Now, Duke, there are some more recent additions to the public art here. Right outside the art building, there are 3 student sculptures.
Yep.
And I kind of like your explanation of this one. This one is called, it's 4 different colors. It's called Disagreements, and the students probably just gave up and said, we can't agree on anything, so we'll just call it Disagreements. Huh?
Well, the idea was that each student would fabricate a different element, and then we would come together as a group to create some type of, you know, pleasing composition. And there was some serious conversations about what should be and shouldn't be happening, you know, which was fun, you know, because I think that a lot of, you know, the idea is that these students graduate here with a BFA and can go on and be professional artists, and they're going to have to work with people in the real world where you're having to you know, make considerations for other people's visions.
More often than not, you do not get your own way.
Well, yeah, you always start with the ideal thing and then work your way back. You know,
okay,
no matter how much it costs.
So this was Disagreements, and they finally concluded that they could live with this. They could all live with this.
Did.
Okay,
yep. They did a fantastic job. It was also a project where they learned how to MIG weld and use the plasma cutter, and this is the first public piece of artwork that any of them had made.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good for them. Good for them.
It's a great piece.
And this one, you can't miss this one, but if for no other reason, just because of the color.
Right. Right. This is done by a former graduate. He is now a graduate student at Georgia Southern University. His name is Brandon Strode. He had a heavy background in design, and he was bringing me these flat drawings that he was really interested in, and we were essentially trying to allow him to do some kind of drawing in a 3-dimensional format. You know, I taught him how to use a plasma cutter. He cut out this wonderful kind of a sinewy kind of conical shape here, or on flat originally, and then created
but you
this
can see that it kind of ramps.
Yep. And then he broke up that real organic nature of that with these, you know, kind of hard edge rods and tubes that are kind of piercing through it.
As with most of these, of course, it's not identified in any way. Do you remember the name of it by any chance?
It's called Synapse.
Synapse. Okay.
Yep.
Well, that makes sense. It's got a lot of connections.
Yep. The title definitely does. I think he was really interested in referencing some of the electrical work that might be happening in the brain, and you know, and those decision-making moments, you know, that he's having.
And how did you and the rest of the staff decide which ones got exhibited out here?
Well, it just depends. We judge them on quality of fabrication so that they're safe. And then as well as, you know, aesthetically, you know, we want to put something out there that's, you know, that's pleasing.
Yeah.
You know, and these sculptures will be here for a while, and then they'll move on, and then we'll have more. And
other students
they'll
get replaced
Absolutely.
by other students' sculptures.
Absolutely.
And there's another one right down over here, and we'll just take a little walk over here.
Yeah.
This one looks like discs sort of impaled on a variety of stands. But what's this one about?
This the title of this piece is Tic-Tac-Toe.
Oh, I get it.
It
Okay,
was made
all
by a BFA student here. His name's Michael McNabb. He's an advanced student here. He's here now still. He's going to be graduating soon. This was his first, he was actually a member of Disagreement, and then he moved on and was interested in the kind of, this balance and this kind of precarious nature of these forms, and created this piece. And he did a really good job. He learned a lot about fabrication and a lot about how much time and effort it takes to make public artwork.
You know, I think this is why I could not be a sculptor. You have to, if you're going to fabricate this stuff, you got to know a lot more than just what you want the artistic conception to be.
Right.
It's got to work.
Yeah. There's a lot of engineering that that's involved with it. You know, and you know, in the public art realm too, you know, these kind of human scale pieces are kind of small. When you get into some really larger stuff, you know, you're dealing with engineers and wind loads and all kinds of wonderful things, you know. But you have to be stubborn as an artist. You have to do everything you can to preserve like the aesthetics of the original design or idea,
while giving into the reality of the situation.
Right. We cannot escape physics yet.
Yeah. This is interesting because he's allowed this thing to catch water and it's rusted.
Yep.
And I assume he knew it was going to rust.
Yeah, the intent was to allow this piece to rust. Now this piece is not made out of core tin steel like some of the previous pieces that we've looked at. It is mild steel, but he's allowing it to patina and rust over the next year, and then he's going to come back and seal it with boiled linseed oil, which actually will seal it and keep it. It'll look like a nice chocolatey brown, but it will look kind of wet a little bit for quite a while. So, but it's a nice piece. He did a really good job. And I know he's pretty proud of it. He actually gave a lecture to his Art 180 class here, you know, and enjoyed it quite a bit. So.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, Duke, on West Jackson in Macomb, there's a little area here that used to be some unkempt homes.
Yep.
That finally got condemned and torn down, and now it's this nice little watch pocket green space.
Yep.
And right smack dab in the middle of it is this. What? I'm not sure what to call it.
Well, the title of the piece is American Class.
American Class.
It's a piece that I built for the city of Macomb. When I first got here, I was working with the mayor and the Rotary Club to create a piece of sculpture for this space, and I wanted to, you know, reference the city in some kind of a way, and the railroad, of course, was just right here. You know, seemed like something that I ought to speak to a bit. And as I've got these kind of railroad shacks, you know, flying in the air here. But the title American Class actually comes from an American Class steam engine, a locomotive. And this locomotive and the railroad is such a lifeblood and lifeline to this town. It's very important, and I thought that, you know, that's a way I could make a connection there. I've used some, you know, this triangular, you know, shape here is a reference to the cow catcher on the front of those old steam engines. You know, this large kind of very slick kind of railroad wheel. That was one thing I was kind of interested in was, you know, these wheels on these rail cars are so polished from running on that steel, you know, so that was one of the reasons I wanted to use stainless, and I use stainless a lot in a lot of my other work as well.
So it's stainless above,
and it's core 10 below.
Core 10 below, and this is the same steel that we saw in several other works earlier today.
Right.
Of course, it's got that distinctive sound to it.
It's it's still, you know, in its process of coloring. You can see there's some lighter and darker areas, but it takes, you know, a few years. This sculpture is, you know, a year and a half old, maybe a year old, and it takes some time for it to color. But one of the great things I really like about core 10 is, like, as soon as it begins to rust, it has this really wonderful, like, orange color that you can see kind of in here. And it's really kind of wonderful to see it change colors, you know, over time.
You know, the stainless too has an effect. I hope the camera can see it. If you look at it from this angle, it almost looks like a marbling effect. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, the whole piece has been brushed or it's been sanded. I use various sanding grits and different things of sandpaper, and you polish the surface, and it's essentially, you know, stainless steel has chromium in it, and you're essentially bringing that chromium to the surface, and when you do it, it creates this kind of pattern. So that's what the kind of swirling patterning you see happening on there is. So
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a wonderful piece. At nighttime, it's lit up from the base. Although it's hard to compete with some of the lighting that's around. In,
There's a McDonald's right across the road.
street, but however, it does have a nice presence in the evening as well. And the community seems to be pretty excited about it, as far as I can tell. So.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have. Macomb doesn't have a lot of large-scale sculpture like this out in the city. On the campus we have some great stuff, but we're trying to push towards that.
Yep. So. Well, it looks like you're getting there anyway. And this is right across from the golden arches. You got the stainless steel arches.
That's
here.
right. That's right. The silver ones.
Okay. Hey, listen, thanks a lot for your time.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Thanks to Gil Bellis, too, for helping us do this program and organizing everything. And Gil, along with members of the art department at Western Illinois University, will once again be hosting those tours of public art on the campus. And once the weather clears and this winter is over with. So if you want to take that, either a group review or just a single tour, call the art department and they'll help you arrange that. With another Illinois Story in Macomb, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.